so welcome everyone to DreamCarXchange's first Would You Rather video. So today we have Chris and Sean here from DreamCarXchange, and we're going to compare basically an $19,000 Porsche question. So would you rather have a base 987.1 Cayman or a 996.1, so early 3.4 liter 911s? Chris, why don't you walk us through what we're going to do?
Yeah, so we're going to, we're going to check out the exteriors of the car, so we'll be outside. Cool. We're going to take a view of the interiors, so we'll compare them. And then we're going to take it for a test ride, so that'll be fun.
Yep.
And then we'll regroup, we'll kind of rank them,
yep,
and then we'll give our final verdict on the two cars, right?
Awesome. All right, so let's give it a go.
All right,
so here we are. We have our 2007 Cayman. Yeah?
Yep, base model, right?
Base model, yep, so 2.7 liter. Okay, so obviously this is black.
On black.
This one's on black on black. It's got some aftermarket wheels. I always like the look of the Caymans.
Oh, me too. I love them.
You know, I like the rear haunches here. It looks to me a bit more kind of aggressive. Front end, I think a little bit more, a little cleaner, yeah? A little bit cleaner with a little bit more rounded headlights. Overall, a little bit more of a modern, I would say, look. All right, let's take a look at the 996. So obviously Arctic silver over black 996. So this is actually a 2001. So both of these cars are actually recently listed on DreamCarXchange, and this car is basically a very stock 996. It's got some options to it. It has the 18-inch turbo look wheels. For those that are Nicolas Cage or Gone in 60 Seconds fans, it's basically kind of the twin to the 911 that crashed out of the dealership in the opening scene of the remake that they made in '99. So it's one of those cars that are pretty much brand new. But yeah, I mean, it's a classic 911 look. Again, a lot of people kind of poo-poo the headlights, right? The fried eggs.
That's what makes the 996 so distinct. Really,
I would agree.
You pick these out anywhere with the headlights, right?
I would agree. Yeah, I mean, I think I have grown to like them a little bit better over the years. Full disclosure, I used to have a 996 Coupe. It was a 99. I currently have a Cayman. I think these cars are aging better now that they're about 20 years old. It's hard to believe that they're 20 years old already, but I think they've aged pretty well. All right, so let's see. This is gonna be a tough one, honestly, as far as a verdict goes. Honestly, I'd probably have to give a slight nod to the Cayman. That would be my vote, would be a slight nod to the Cayman. Chris, what about you?
Yeah, I think I'm with you on that as well. You know, again, nothing against the 996 itself, but in these two particular cars, I think I'm gonna have to agree with you. From an exterior perspective, I think I'm gonna go with the Cayman as well.
All right, so there we have it. Exterior, both on Cayman. So here's the interior of the Cayman. Standard seats. Again, most everything is pretty stock in here. It's got the standard steering wheel, standard gear shift, e-brake, no full leather or anything like that. So it's pretty stock black interior. But overall, again, just kind of a pretty nice, clean look to it. One thing that's pretty common on these cars is, as you can see here, is kind of some wear.
Yeah.
You know, wear around the buttons. My Cayman, I'm kind of fortunate, doesn't have that. This is
I have it a little on mine.
You do?
Yeah.
All right. So pretty common on the 997s and the 987 kind of model cars that they get kind of wear there that you see. But overall, pretty nice. I think.
These are they're tight cabins, though. They're, you know, with the mid-engine.
True. Good point. That's a good point.
Tight in a good way. I mean, Sean, how tall are you?
Yeah, I'm almost 6'3", and I don't put the seat quite all the way to the back. As you see, there's a little bit of room there.
Yep.
But you know, definitely a little bit less room than you know the 911s. That's for sure. All right, let's take a look kind of in the back here. So obviously this car has optional, or not even optional, aftermarket subs here, so taking up a lot of space that normally be in the trunk here. It's not really deep underneath this anyway. I think maybe it's 8 inches deep or so, 8-10 max. But you can fit a fair amount of stuff back here. We got the front trunk that all of them have, which is, you know, a decent size in these. And again, this one has an aftermarket amp in it that takes probably a few inches of depth, but overall you can fit a pretty good, decent sized, you know, rollerboard and or briefcase, because I've typically done that, is put my suitcase and briefcase all in the front with no issues. So
yeah, I was surprised. First track days bringing the
that's a good point.
How much you can actually fit in these cars.
Yeah.
And here in the back, obviously with the subwoofers there, that's taking up a good amount of space.
Yeah.
But I was really surprised at how much stuff you can fit in the back and in the front.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah.
All right, now let's move on to the 911. All right, so here we have the 996. Pretty similar, obviously black interiors, but this is the previous generation.
Yeah.
For Porsche, you know, just like the original series of Boxsters, very similar. One thing for sure I definitely noticed was just and again, people have talked about this since these cars came out, just the quality of the materials is definitely different. I noticed just having my elbow on the door pocket, it's pretty hard on this car. Yep. You know, over here. So,
well, and that's
this here, it's pretty hard. It's hard plastic. So if you're driving for a long period of time, it gets a little uncomfortable, you know. But this particular car has the sports seats, which is nice. Yep. It has the carbon fiber and aluminum e-brake and shifter, which is nice. So it has some nice touches in here. Obviously the back seat, which if you're anything older than a probably 8-year-old, you're not really fitting in. But it's got a ton of storage back here. So when you flip down the seats, there's been many times where you're able to throw a lot of things back here. You know, overall, again, I think it's okay. I think it's aged okay. Yeah. You know, definitely not the standards of the Cayman from a quality or I think just kind of look and feel perspective. Now let's take a look at front trunk. I think it's pretty similar in size to the Cayman. So, you know, I think you get a little bit more room in the back seats. So a little bit overall room in the 911. And Chris, if we were to kind of rate these, for me, I you know, I'm the newer the Cayman. I think it's just it's a nicer look and feel. Agreed. The style of it is nicer. So I'm definitely thumbs up with the Cayman on this one.
I mean, I think I'm leaning towards that as well too.
Okay.
I mean, it's tough to compare when you're talking about 6 years different.
So you had to make a choice. What would you do?
Yeah, I think I'm with you on the Cayman.
Okay. So both on the Cayman. So it starts right up. Nice little growl at the beginning. Open the windows and hear it a little bit.
Yeah.
Sounds pretty good.
It does.
All right, so let's go. So clutch feels good. Gearbox is good. This is a standard shift. It's not a short shift or anything like that.
They're fairly short to begin with, though. Like, we're gonna notice a difference between the 996.
Yeah, right? I think you're right. I definitely think you're right. So, acceleration here. Close the window. So it pulls pretty good. Again, I think the key is keeping the revs up. Because you know, down low it does get a little soft from a torque perspective. But shifts really good, nice and tight. You know, the mid-engine layout feels good. I remember when I first test drove one of these way back when they first came into the States back in 05. It was actually winter of 05. And I test drove one and I couldn't believe how good the steering felt on the car. And I still feel that today.
Yeah.
Definitely one of the best steering feel cars that I've ever driven, without a doubt. So, but drives real well. Again, just need to keep the revs up a little bit. Yeah, it feels good.
Yeah.
Definitely feels good. All right, so what we'll do is we'll switch. Chris will take the wheel again, first time in a base Cayman, and get his view. All right, here we go. Chris at the helm here.
Right. As you said, first time in a base Cayman.
All right, so
yeah, it's obviously not as responsive, but again, I think
it definitely pulls.
But
It's smooth though too.
It's smooth, yeah.
You know, it's definitely smooth through the rev band, and just wants to pull, just at a slower rate, basically.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, let's start with the 911 now. All right. Similar flat six kind of sound to it. Definitely louder.
Yeah.
Definitely louder, which is, I've never noticed that before.
Well, even in the passenger seat, that's noticeable.
Yeah, it's definitely louder, and definitely has a good more oomph down low. That's for sure. Feels good. I don't think the steering is quite as tight as the Cayman. I'd say kind of comfort-wise and all that, it's pretty similar.
This model in particular, I mean, this car, you know, from the exterior, it doesn't have the most aggressive look, but from the interior, it's certainly pretty aggressive in here.
For stock,
for driving, yeah.
All right, so we're going to switch it up in another minute. Give Chris the opportunity to drive this and see what he thinks. Here we go.
All right.
Chris driving the 996.
Yeah, I think the first reaction is just that throw the first time. I think it does feel a little longer.
A little longer, okay.
A little bit, but again, very tight. Yeah, what do you think? What's the weight differential of these cars?
Yeah, that's a good question. I we have to check, but I think they're pretty close to each other.
Yeah.
I think the Cayman might be a little bit less because of
right?
the smaller engine.
Yeah.
But you know, these, if I remember correctly, were right around 3,000 pounds.
Okay.
And I think the base Cayman was somewhere around 29-ish, something like that, 2,900 pounds. So they're not that far off. I would say if they're more than 100, 150 pounds difference, I would be surprised. Yeah, definitely pulls stronger.
Wow.
Definitely pulls stronger.
I kind of went into this maybe preconceived thoughts on what I was going to pick from driving experience,
Okay.
but this is really this is interesting. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Wow.
All right, so now that we've driven both, let's see what your verdict is on the performance and you know, which one talks to you more?
You know, I went into it thinking that the Cayman was probably going to be tighter all the way, the steering, the overall performance. But when I put it all together, and I know, you know, it's very similar, same exact drive that we went on, I'm going to have to go with the 996.
Okay. All right, so performance-wise, 996. I'm with you on that. I think the power difference is just too much to overcome.
Definitely.
All right, so here we are with the final tally, and interesting enough that Chris and I were spot on, you know, as far as preference, and we both prefer the exterior and the interior to the Cayman. I think for me, it's a slight difference of the exterior. The interior, I think, you know, 911 is definitely more functional with having the back seat. So if you do have young kids, it's a great car to have.
I wasn't probably thinking of that as I was going through. It's just more, to your point, the materials, the feel, the look, even the dials, the gauges, you know. So, but the functionality is something certainly to consider. But I think I still end up in that same category from the interior perspective.
Yep, and again, the performance of it, again, it's just hard to give up, you know, 50 plus horsepower and torque to do that. And again, I think it's pretty close from a handling perspective. Again, Cayman definitely has a little bit better kind of feel for the steering, but it's not night and day by any stretch.
No.
And again, I think just to me, the 911 just overall talks to me a little bit more. It's you know, that's one of those intangible kind of things. You know, which one?
They both sound great.
They
both drove great. They both pulled different. The 911 actually pulls obviously a lot different than the Cayman, but I gotta say, I mean, for the price point, for how we ranked each of these categories,
Yeah.
I mean, it couldn't be closer.
Yeah, it was
honestly,
pretty close.
When I think about my overall pick here,
All right, what's your overall?
You know, it is super close. We each were at exactly the same ranking, 2 and 2, but I still, when you're talking about Porsche, you're talking about performance cars. So,
Yeah.
I mean, for me, the talking to you is almost what gets me there too.
Yeah,
so for me, it's the 911.
911, yeah.
And it's again, it's super close though.
Yeah, me too. I'm with the 911, and honestly, going into this, I kind of thought it was going to be the Cayman until I drove them back to back. Just again, I think the 996s are underappreciated just from a car, especially with the amount of money you can get them for now.
That is
you know,
so
plus or
much
minus
value in
20K.
that car. I mean,
And you know, I've come to appreciate them more as just good drivers and having fun. Like again, fast enough.
Yeah.
They're great classic looking cars. That's the one I'd rather. That's for sure.
And that's coming from, at least now, I mean, you do have 911 as well too, but I mean, that's coming from 2 Cayman.
Yeah.
Guys,
Yeah, that's true.
We you know,
That's
we're
true.
literally jumping in our Caymans to go home.
Yeah.
And we both picked the 911.
Good point. So there you have it. Rather have the 911 than the 996. So hope you enjoyed the first installment here of Would You Rather, and looking forward to doing some other interesting comparisons.
Yeah, I can't wait to do the next one.
All right, all. Have a good one.
Bye.